So Emma, what's the right balance between people, process, and technology? I'll come to you on this in a minute, Rob. It's a question definitely for you, but Emma, how do we get that balance right?
So I think, again, this is a lot to do with the immaturity of the market, that organizations don't really understand cybersecurity, and so they think, and the salesmen encourage them to think that they can just buy an expensive whizzy box and then they'll be secure. And of course, that's not necessarily the case, especially if they don't have the expertise to understand the whizzy box. So in IASME, for example, we have grown very, very quickly in the last year. And we certainly started off using sort of micro company ways of staying secure, and now we've got to the stage where we need a lot more. And so if we'd have purchased specific things right at the beginning, we would have to have bought a whole load new stuff now. And so we've really relied on expertise as much as technology. But of course, as you get bigger, you have to rely increasingly on technology because you just can't do it all. So you need both. You need the expertise and you need the technology. And the requirements change so much as you change in size as a company. And so that's really hard to manage, the growth of a company combined with your security requirements.
Yeah, I concur with your view about maturity of the industry, actually, and it's quite frightening that we're saying that. I mean, I started my career when even information security wasn't quite a thing, and now we're talking about cybersecurity, and we do have conversations about our maturity. And as you quite rightly pointed out earlier, the attackers don't really care about that; they're just going to carry on. So organisations who are struggling with understanding how to deal with these scenarios, the growth scenario that you talk about there, I mean, it's tricky for every small to medium business. And given the risk around supply chain as well, that we hear about a lot, Rob, these scenarios for the customers can be quite tricky. How do we get the advice out there, and what is your advice to those organizations not quite sure how to get that balance right between people, process, and technology?
Sure. So I think it depends on the size of the organization, clearly. And if it's the low end, the small organizations, they definitely need to look at things like Cyber Essentials and start building things. But in terms of like the people they need, I'd say it's more like, first of all, organizations need to see cybersecurity as a board level thing, a risk that's discussed. And then they need to think about how that might impact their business in some way. So how might cybersecurity impact our business? Could it stop us delivering things, buying things, acquiring things, selling things? What is it that could happen to us? What's the scenarios? Because until the business is thinking about what cybersecurity could, what sort of impact cybersecurity could have on them, there's no real point in thinking about it much further, because otherwise it's just something that exists. It's not a problem to them, or it's not an opportunity. So I think it's trying to get the right mindset. So it's, first of all, it's got to be at the board level, but below that, I'd say the advice for us is that most organizations can't build an effective cybersecurity operation themselves, no matter what they're in terms of technology and people, but they can build something internally that gives them control. So what we would say that you need to be in control of your cybersecurity. You need to have a roadmap, a plan. You need to understand the risks and opportunities, but then you probably need to look at some partners in how you deliver that. Yeah, because it's probably not a great idea, particularly with the skills gap as it is, to try and recruit your own full team at the moment. There's massive competition on resource, and I think that's only going to get worse. So our advice is always to think, get something at the top level, try and understand risks and opportunities as much as anything else that cyber presents, because for some businesses, cyber may be an opportunity. So if you're a supplier in a supply chain, you may be able to boost your credentials by getting better at cyber and letting your main supply chain up the food chain know how good you are at this. So you may be able to use that as a business enabler. So I think really start at the top, but don't try and fix the whole problem yourself, but try and keep control, what we call control of it, because it is your responsibility. So we're always saying to organizations that cyber is something you need to be responsible for, either for your organization or people you supply to. You're going to have to take this seriously at some point. The quicker you do it, the better. But that doesn't mean go and buy loads of stuff or recruit loads of people. It just means that build it as a function of your business that you understand, and that gives you some control over how you move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that. I long for those days where organizations, make decisions about their growth, not just on finance and commercial it's about cybersecurity as well, because as you say, it can have a massive impact on the growth of an organization.